Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to our video lesson in science. Now, for this particular video lesson, we are going to talk about the different concepts that will help you accomplish the different tasks stated in your learning activity sheets for week 5 and week number 6. Okay. By the way, your learning activity sheet for week 5 and 6 is entitled Atoms, Protons, Neutrons, and Electrons. So basically, what we will be talking about in this video lesson are the different structures of an atom. Okay, right? Before we proceed to our discussion, okay, let us just be reminded with the help of this poster from the Department of Health of the following safety measure that we can do in this time of pandemic. So as we can see, here are some of the precautionary measures that we can do. Bawal walang masks, isanitize ang kamay, dumistansya ng 1 metro at alamin ang totoong impormasyon. So stay safe everyone as we try to cope up with this pandemic. Okay. Okay. Now let us have the objectives of this video lesson. Okay. Let me read. After completing this module or your learning activity sheet, you should be able to do the following. Describe the electron, proton, and neutron of an atom. Number 2, compute the number of protons, electrons, and neutrons in a particular atom. And lastly, determine the atomic number and the mass number of a given element. So these are the objectives that we will try to achieve with the help of this video lesson. Okay, now before we proceed to the discussion, let us first read the following questions that I have posted in here. Okay, now for our inquiry, here are some questions that we will try to answer as we go on with our discussion. Okay, number 1, what comprises a matter? Okay, ano nga ba talaga ang bumubuo sa isang matter? Okay, in our previous discussion, we have discussed the definition of matter, and we say that matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. Now, what composes a matter is the topic of our discussion for today. Another question is that, how were they discovered? Paano na-discover yung mga bumubuo o nagko-compose sa matter? And lastly, are they really indivisible? Kasi there is, as we go on with our lesson, you will learn that what makes up a matter is a small, are very small particles. Now, here comes the question that are those small particles really indivisible as cited by some earlier scientists? So we will try these following questions as we go on with our lesson. Okay, now let's begin with the discovery of an atom. Okay, let's go back in time. Now, the concept of atom was first introduced by the scientist Democritus. It was in the time of 400 BC, where he believed that the universe is made up of invisible units called atoms. Now, in Greek, atoms was first called as atomos, then it was translated into English over time. So from atomos, it becomes atom. Now, the idea of atomos, or that everything in the universe is made up of small invisible particles or units, came from Democritus. However, during that time, Aristotle was a very famous philosopher, and the idea of Democritus was not supported by Aristotle. Aristotle believed in the idea of uh, Empedocles. Empedocles is a forerunner of the idea of the element theory, wherein everything in the universe, including our own planet, is made up of or came from the four elements: the wind, the fire, the earth, and the water. Now, Empedocles' idea got the support of Aristotle, who was very famous during that time. That is why Democritus' idea of atom was disregarded during the classical Greeks. It was only until 18th century, with the help of work of John Dalton, wherein Democritus' idea was reconsidered. Okay, okay, as you can read in here, it took 2,000 years to prove that Democritus was right? Okay, kasi nga, if we will go back to the history, in the history, okay, si Aristotle, siya yung one of the famous philosopher during the time, during the classical Greek, okay? And he believed the idea of Empedocles, the theory, the idea of elements, the fire, the wind, the earth, the water, wherein everything in the universe came from those elements. And and Aristotle even called Democritus a quack. Okay? Parang peke na doktor lang or peking scientist or peking philosopher during that time. Kaya it took 2,000 years for Democritus' idea to be reconsidered and was proven right with the help of the work of several scientists including John Dalton, Anton Lavoisier, J.J. Thomson, Chadwick, James Chadwick, and the rest of the company. Okay, let's continue. Okay, now remember this. Okay, everything in the universe, all that we consider as matter is made up of atoms. That is why atoms is called as the basic structure and unit of matter. Lahat ng property ng meron ng isang matter is all because of atom. The reason is atom makes everything. Okay? Now, what really are atoms? Yan yung pag-uusapan natin dito. Atoms are the basic unit of matter and the defining structure of element. Now, remember, every element in the periodic table or every element in our surrounding is made up of one particular kind of atom. Iba-ibang klase ng atom meron tayo sa paligid natin. Now, atoms are composed of three subatomic particles. Okay? Yung matter binubuo ng atom. Sa loob ng atom, meron pa tayong mga particles na makikita. Tinatawag natin silang mga subatomic particles. The three subatomic particles, main subatomic particles in an atom are the following. We have the proton, the neutron, and the electron. When we say proton, it is the positively charged particle of an atom. Wherein when we say electron, it is the opposite charge of proton. It is the negatively charged particle of an atom. Wherein when we say neutron, it is the neutral or uncharged particle within an atom. Now, this is the structure of an atom. This is a model of an atom. This is particularly called the planetary model of an atom. Now, we can see in here a center, and an orbit. Okay, sa center, ang tawag natin dito is the nucleus of an atom. Ano ang makikita natin sa nucleus of an atom? In a nucleus of an atom, we can find the neutron and the proton. Also, remember that the mass of an atom is concentrated at the center or at the nucleus of an atom. Then, the imaginary orbit wherein we can find the electrons is called the shell. Okay? So, mapapansin natin, sa loob pala ng isang atom, at its center, we can find the nucleus. It is composed of the proton and the neutron. At sa paligid ng nucleus, we can find the negatively charged particles called the electrons. Okay? Yan. So again, when we say atom, these are the basic unit of matter. It is the defining structure of every element. Iba't ibang klase ng element, we have different types of atom. Iba ang atom ng oxygen, iba ang atom ng carbon, iba ang atom ng nitrogen. And also, atoms are composed of three main subatomic particles. We have the positively charged particle called the proton. We have the neutral or uncharged particle called the neutron. And we have the negatively charged particle called the electron. Okay? Okay. Now, let us move on to the atomic number and the atomic mass. Atomic number and atomic mass class are two of the properties that an atom of each element has. Ito yung isa sa mga, kumbaga sa tao, ito yung two of the defining characteristics na meron ng isang atom. Okay? Unahin natin yung atomic number. When we say atomic number, it is equal to the number of proton found in a nucleus of each atom. So, ito yung tatandaan ninyo, class. Okay? Atomic number is a property of an atom. Para malaman natin kung ano yung atomic number ng isang atom, titingnan lang natin yung number of proton. Okay? And also, you have to remember that in a neutral atom, meaning neither positive, neither negative, hindi siya negative, hindi siya positive, in a neutral atom, the number of proton is equal to the number of electron. So kung alam natin yung number of proton, alam natin yung atomic number, at the same time, alam natin yung number of electron. Ulitin ko, when we say atomic number, it is the number of proton present in an atom of an element. And you also have to remember that in a neutral atom, the number of proton and the number of electron are equal. So in other words, kapag alam natin yung number of proton ng isang element, alam natin yung number of electron at atomic number niya. Or vice versa. Kapag alam natin kung ilan yung atomic number niya, alam natin ang number of proton and number of electron niya. Okay? Bakit? Kasi they are all equal. The atomic number is equal to the number of proton and the number of electron of an atom. So, let us try to fill this table up. Let us determine the property or the number of proton or the number of electron that is lacking in this particular table. So we have here the element sodium, strontium, manganese, and phosphorus. Excuse me. Okay, unahin natin yung sodium. Atomic number ng sodium is 11. Okay? Sabi natin, atomic number is equal to the number of proton and electron. So, kung ang atomic number is 11, so therefore, ang number of proton is also 11. Yan, very good. And the number of proton is equal to the number of electron. Kung 11 yung proton, so therefore, ang electron din is 11. Okay? Yan. Tandaan niyo ha, atomic number, atomic number, number of proton, and number of electron, they are all equal. Strontium naman. We have here, the given is the number of proton. So, alam natin na ito ay equal at ito ay equal. Okay, so, number of proton of strontium is 38. So, therefore, ilan yung atomic number niya? Also 38. Ilan yung number of electron niya? Also 38. Very good. Okay. Now, how about manganese? Manganese, ang given is the number of proton. Ilan yung atomic number niya? So, since it is 25, so therefore, ang atomic number niya is also 25. How about the number of electron? Since the number of proton and electron are just equal, so 25 ito, therefore, ang number of electron niya is also 25. So, sa phosphorus, try natin kung madrag natin. Okay, so hindi ko siya nakita. So try to, in the comment box of this particular video lesson, try to determine the number of proton and the atomic number of phosphorus. You can either look into your periodic table or I'll just upload the PowerPoint wherein you can see the particular figure in here. So I think this is 14. Okay? Kung 14 ito, so therefore, ang number ng proton niya is also 14 and the atomic number is also 14. It is either 14 or 11. Okay? Sorry, hindi na siya 11 kasi yung sodium is already 11. Okay, now let's continue class our discussion. I have here a table, okay, the same, an incomplete table. Okay, anong gagawin natin? The same with the previous activity, we will try to supply the missing data based on the given in the following table. So we have here different elements, aluminum, gallium, antimony, calcium, and francium. Hahanapin natin yung mga nawawala sa table na data. Let's first have the element aluminum. Ano yung given sa atin for the first element aluminum? The given are the number of neutron and the number of proton. And ano yung hinahanap sa atin? Okay, the missing are the number of electron and atomic number as well as the atomic mass. Unahin natin yung pinakamadali. We have the number of electrons. Sabi natin sa atom ng sa isang neutral atom, the number of proton and the number of electron are equal. equal. So kung 13 ang proton, ang electron din is 13. And also, atomic number, sabi natin, atomic number is just the number of proton or electron of a given element. So kung 13 ang proton, ang atomic number is also 13. Now lastly, we will determine the atomic mass. Paano natin gagawin yon? We will just add the number of proton and the number of neutron. So the number of proton is 13 plus the number of neutron, 14. So 13 plus 14, the atomic mass pala of aluminum is 27. Okay, very good. Now let's continue. We have the second element, the atom of element gallium. Ano yung mga given sa element natin for gallium? For the element gallium, we have the number of proton, 31, the atomic mass, which is 70. Unahin natin yung madali, the number of electron and the atomic number. Alam natin yung number of protons, so madali nating malaman yung electron at yung kanyang atomic number. Kasi nga, they are just equal. So kung 31 ito, ang electron pala is also 31. Atomic number is also 31. Okay? So 31 ito lahat. Now, ang sunod nating hahanapin is the number of neutron. At ang given natin is atomic mass and protons. So, ano yung gagawin natin? What we have to do? Okay, we will just subtract the number of proton from the atomic mass to find the number of neutron. So 70 minus the number of atomic mass, which is 70, minus the number of proton, which is 31. So 70 minus 31, ang number pala ng neutron is 39. Okay? So to check, just simply add the number of neutrons plus the number of protons. You should arrive at the equivalence of the atomic mass. So 39 plus 31 dapat 70. Okay? Now let's continue with the element antimony. Ano yung mga given sa atin? This is just the atomic number and the atomic mass. So, unahin natin yung madali, yung atomic number. Sabi natin, the atomic number, the proton, the electron of an element are just the same. So, the atomic number of element antimony is 51. So, ang number of proton niya is also 51. Very good. And alam natin na yung proton at electron ay parehas. So, kung 51 ito, this is also 51. Okay, so 51 ito. Now, lastly, we will determine the number of neutron. How do we do that? How are we going to do that? We will just subtract the number of proton, which is 51, what we determined a while ago, 51, from the atomic mass. So, 122 minus 51, ilan? 122 minus 51, we have 71. So, ang neutron pala ng isang antimony atom is 71. So, to check kung tama yung 71, just simply add neutron plus the number of protons. It should be equivalent to atomic mass, which is 122. Now, let's proceed to calcium. Now, ano yung mga given sa atin? The given are the number of neutron and the atomic mass. So, ang hahanapin natin is the number of proton, electron, and the atomic number. And we all know na kapag nakuha lang natin yung isa, alam na natin yung number ng dalawa. Pag nakuha natin yung number of proton, alam na natin yung number of electron and the atomic number. Bakit? Kasi they are just equal. Okay. So, ano ang gagawin natin para mahanap yung number of proton? Okay, very good. We will subtract the number of neutron from the atomic mass. Okay, the number of neutron of a calcium atom is 20. Its atomic mass is 40. So 40 minus 20, okay, it is equal to 20. So yan na yung number of proton. So ang number of proton pala ng isang calcium atom is 20. So ang electron niya is also 20 and the atomic number is also 20. Okay, very good. Now lastly, we have the atom of an element francium. The given are the number of neutron, the number of electron. Okay, ano yung unahin natin? Dito tayo sa madali. Huwag natin papahirapan yung sarili natin. Okay, we will determine first the number of proton and the number of atomic number kasi itong tatlong ito, proton, electron, and atomic number are just the same. So kung 87 ito, proton is also 87, atomic number is also 87. Okay, now lastly, we will determine the atomic mass. So since 87 yung proton natin, at para mahanap yung atomic mass, ang gagawin lang natin is to add the number of proton and neutron. So 87 plus 136, yan lang yung gagawin natin. 136 plus 87, so we will arrive at the number of its atomic mass, which is equivalent to 223. So, 136 plus 87, 223 yan yung atomic mass ng element francium. Okay? So, yan class. Ganyan lang kadali yung activities ninyo in your last for week 5 and week number 6. Okay? Okay, now let's discuss your learning activity sheet. Kung ano yung gagawin niyo. Okay, for your learning activity sheet, meron kayong iba't ibang activity dyan. Activity A, determine the number of protons, number of neutrons, and the number of electrons in a particular atom by filling up the table. So, yung kagaya ng ginawa natin kanina. Then, after doing that, answer the following guide questions. From question number 1 to question number 3. Then, you now proceed to activity B for week 5. Okay. Ang mga given sa inyo is the element. What you are going to determine is the number of proton, the number of electron, and the number of neutron. So in here, you can use your periodic table para mas madali nyo ma-determine yung mga data na hinahanap sa table natin. Okay? O kaya, just simply look at this one. Okay? Ito yung atomic number niya, yung nasa subscript sa kaliwa. Sorry. Yung mga subscript na yan, yung mga nasa kaliwa, yan yung atomic number. Yung mga superscript na yan, yung nasa taas, yung nasa kanan, yan yung kanyang atomic mass. Okay? Okay, maliban yata dito sa element iodine. Okay? Parang baliktad dito. Okay? Okay. Or para mas madali sa inyo, you can just use the periodic table. And letter C, yan. Titingin lang kayo sa table na ito. Okay? I-arrange ninyo from, ano yung pagkakasabi dito? Arrange the subatomic particles in increasing mass. So, from least to greatest. Okay, arrange yung alin dyan yung pinakamaliit, yan yung number 1. Alin yung pinakamalaki, yan yung number 3. Yung electron, proton, and the neutron. Okay, para sa week number 6 naman, okay, kagaya ng ginawa nating activity, okay, meron kayong element, given element, yan, you will identify the atomic number, the atomic mass, the number of neutron, and the number of proton, as well as the number of electron. And for activity number, letter B, yan, ganun din. Okay, similar to our activity. Then, dito, i-identify ninyo kung anong element. Anong element ang mayroong atomic number na 79? Okay? Yung element na oxygen, ilan yung kanyang number of proton and number of neutron. So, you can use the periodic table as your guide. Okay. Now, let us elaborate our discussion. If you know the number of protons in an atom, which other particle of atom would you automatically know? And why? Kung alam niyo yung number of proton ng isang atom, ano yung isang particle ang madali niyong malaman? It is the number of electron. Bakit? Kasi they are just equal. Yung number of proton and electron sa isang neutral atom is the same. If the number of protons of a given atom is not indicated, what other subatomic particle could serve as your guide? Kung wala daw yung number of proton, anong subatomic particle ang pwedeng maging guide ninyo para malaman kung ilan yung number of proton? It is the number of electron. Okay? Kasi they are just equal. Could you determine the number of protons and electrons of a given atom with its atomic number? Pwede ba nating malaman kung ilan yung number of electron or proton kapag given sa atin yung atomic number? Yes. Bakit? Kasi they are just equal. Kung ilan yung atomic number, siya rin yung bilang ng electron at proton ng isang atom. Now, lastly, given the mass number and the number of neutrons of a particular atom, can you determine the mass of its proton or the number of its proton? Given daw yung atomic mass at yung number ng neutron, pwede mo bang mahanap yung number of proton? Yes. Papaano? How? By just subtracting the number of neutron from the atomic mass of a given atom. Kapag ginawa mo yun, mahanap mo yung number of proton. Paano naman kapag given yung proton at yung atomic mass, paano mahanap yung number of neutron? Just do the same. Just do the otherwise. Okay? Just subtract the number of proton from the number of or from its atomic mass. Malalaman mo kung ilan yung neutron. Okay? Okay. So, quiz time. Okay, so hindi na ito. Hindi ko na okay. That's all for today. I hope this video lesson will help you accomplish your task for your learning activities in week number 5 and week number 6. Okay? So that's all and stay safe everyone.